Good morning in America, good evening in Africa, good evening in Germany, good evening in Italy, good evening in London, good evening wherever you find yourself. My name is Dr. Enoch Opoku NP, and I am a leadership professor of leadership and management studies. Today I'm going to come your way with another very important topic, and we are going to discuss a lot of issues about the unpredictability of African leaders. So a couple of things that I would do today. I want to tell you a little bit about myself because most people have called me to ask that you seem to be doing a great job, but we don't know much about you. Yes, I'm a professor, and it's just that because of the coronavirus that I've got the chance to talk about leadership to my friends who also shared with other people. So if you come online, we'll be ready to share ideas of common interest and importance. As the reminders, I'm an author of 4 books, and I'm working on my 5th book, which is Servant Leadership, how the theory informs the practice and how the practice also informs the theory. So this is my first book, which is Political Party Followership and Political Leadership in Africa. It was published by Lambert Publication in Germany, and it's in Amazon for $82. My second book is this one, Leadership is Concept Heavy. Leadership is Concept Heavy. It talks about a case against fragmented theories in evolutionary leadership and contemporary leadership. My third book is this, Hands-on Teaching and Evidence-Based Learning in Africa. And I launched this book in Ghana. The fourth book is this, Counting the Count in Business Consulting, Ideation of Top 40 Business Consultants. And then my 5th book will be ready by the end of this year, which is Servant Leadership. So I am a leadership expert, and not only do I teach leadership as a professor, I also do leadership consulting. And my business consulting firm is MB's Consulting, ENBEES, MB's Consulting. So you can find me on mbsconsulting.com. Today I'm going to talk about a very important topic, and that is the predictability of African leaders is their unpredictability. The predictability of African leaders is their unpredictability. Next week is going to be July 26th, and I'm going to talk about African media, bought, rented, or an opinion press. And then a week after that, which is going to be August 2nd, I'll talk about religion and leadership in Africa. So I'm picking some important topics to talk about. From August, I'm going to go back to the classroom because summer is going to be over. And because of that, I will be doing leadership talk just once a month. But for now, next week, I will do another one, which is going to be African media, bought, rented, or opinion press. Then I will talk about the next week, religion and leadership in Africa. So today, stay with me as we discuss the topic of the predictability of African leaders is their unpredictability. This is our preamble. Why do we need leaders? And the answer is simple. Because a leader created this universe and put orderliness in place. In this leader's kingdom, there are 4 living beings. And this is seen in John's vision in Revelation 4:6-8. And these 4 living beings appear as a lion, an ox, an eagle, and as a man. And they have covered themselves with eyes. So all eyes are around them in their front and in their back. And they have 6 wings. I just want to take you to the creator of this universe, how he takes leadership to be. Then we have 24 elders in his kingdom. And these 24 elders are seen in Revelation 4:4. These 24 elders sit on the throne before the Lord, the Creator. They are not angels. according to Romans 7:11. But they represent different cities and families and tribes and nations. They represent the redeemed human race. So we have the 4 living, the 24 others, besides the Holy Spirit and Christ himself in God's kingdom. My friends, we are creation, and leadership brought our existence. That is why leadership is very important. So in a nutshell, leaders influence individuals and groups to achieve a common goal. And according to a study in 2011 by Alan Bird, there is not a single way to lead. Therefore, leadership is situational. I know we have come a long way in leadership studies. Leadership is not an old discipline in academia. It's a very new discipline. So you don't have many people who have PhDs in leadership studies. And even in America here, where I teach as a professor, leadership is a new study. That is why I am pushing for Africans to understand the need of leadership in changing our situations. So leadership is very situational. And this representation, my presentation today, is based on situational challenges in Africa, where we have many dysfunctional leaders. Of course, there are many dysfunctional leaders in the world, but my focus today is going to be on Africa. Let's see the test of leadership. The test of leadership is that it's an awesome responsibility. If you are lazy, if you are not bold, if you are not somebody with a vision, then don't sign up for leadership. And the test is simple. Are your people better off when you are leaving office than when you arrived as a leader? So by predictability of my topic, I'm going to talk about these things, the concepts of Africa, and that relates to the history, theory, and approaches of governance, our development, our informational situations, the way the leaders relate to other people. We have openness, collaboration, ethics, how we handle emergencies, the legacies we leave behind, and generally good leadership. Abner Chairman says, hi, Dr. Entry. Hi, Abner, how are you? I hope you are doing well in London. Good evening to you. You come from my village, Asukore. Good evening to you. Yes, anybody who wants to share anything can share it. This is Leadership Talk, and we'll be sharing ideas. What I know, my opinion is just one out of many, even though I'm a leadership professor. You all have seen, I can tell you from leadership studies that leadership is common even in the animal world. We have the dancing bee. We have the wise elephant. These lead even in the animal kingdom. Even in the animal kingdom, we have leaders. That is why leadership is very important. So when we talk about the core values to achieve predictability constructs of African leaders, I am looking for integrity. I'm looking for inclusivity, commitment, professionalism, empowerment, humility, spirituality, and listening. And the final word I'm looking for is caring, those who care for their citizens. And when I talk about unpredictability of African leaders, we are looking for corruption, poor development, twisted history, bad leadership, wars, not leaving office after expiration of their term, drama, and confusion. Greenleaf, Robert Greenleaf, is the author or the father of the concept of servant leadership in 1971. And he asked this important question. Do those served grow as people, become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become leaders? If any of these questions, the answer is no, then you have failed as a leader. So let me go to a guy called Warren Bennis. He's a leadership expert. And he said that leadership is character in action. Leadership is character in action. That is why in God, or what my Muslim brothers will call Allah, expect us to see his character in us. Leadership is character in action. That is why the creator of this universe expects that his character will be exhibited in human beings. So leadership behaviors that injure, blame, intimidate, isolate, manipulate, humiliate, hurt, wound, threaten, terrorize, coerce, and frighten others are not good leadership characters. General Norman Schwarzkopf once said, and I quote, 99% of leadership failures are a failure of character. So character is a key component construct in leadership. And that is why character failure in seeking the light from the wrong truth led to sin in the Garden of Eden. Next 2 weeks, I'll talk about religion and leadership in Africa. And next week, I'm going to talk about the media in Africa and the way forward. So to better understand character, let's differentiate between character and personality. When we talk about personality, we're talking about the mask that we wear for the world to see. The mask that people put on their faces for the world to see is their personality. So that is the social image that they display. However, what you see is not what you get. Most personalities are fake. And that comes from 16th century when Machiavelli wrote a book about the prince. Fake personalities. But when we talk about character, it is the visible sign of our inner nature. That is what is beneath our personality, what is beneath the mask in us. It is a level of commitment of doing the right thing, which explains why leadership is character. And most African leaders suffer from mismatch of character. And this is why. Those who have self-confidence may be self-ignorant. Those who have self-knowledge have trustworthy issues. Those who are trustworthy could be assertive or intolerant. The tolerant ones could be indecisive. The decisive ones could communicate poorly. Those who are good communicators might not listen. And those who listen might not inspire followers. Those who inspire followers might not be relationship builders. And those who build relations could be unethical. And those who are ethical could be inauthentic. And the authentic ones could also have problem with diversity. And that leads to what Barbara Kellerman talked about in 2004 in her book, Bad Leadership. So now our character matures to become a habit. I've talked about character, what it is. Now, when the character grows, it becomes a habit. And habit comes from choices. So those of you who are drunkards, you start with a bottle of beer. The next time you increase to 2 bottles of beer, and before you know, you are a drunkard. Those who are drug addicts, it starts the same way. You start with, a pass. And then before you know, you are a drug addict. Aristotle once said, moral virtues come about as a result of habits. And that means we become what we usually do. So what do African leaders usually do? They have not made good choices in applying our natural resources. What I call the junk theory. This is my own theory as a professor, the junk theory. The junk theory is simple. We have kids in now the advanced world. Even in Africa, most families have refrigerators. And when you come to refrigerators, there are many food in there. Because there are many options, our kids go open the refrigerator and then they pick junk food instead of the good food because they have many options. And that is what is happening in Africa. We have a situation where there are many resources, and because of that, their choices have been a lot of junks. We also have a situation where their actions do not match their character. So we have enforcement problem even in laws in Africa, where values are not taught at schools, in communities, and our homes. They tend to be selfish sometimes. And here, there's a guy called Jim Hunter, who is one of the professors of servant leadership. He talked about people who are selfish. Even when you are sick, on your sick bed, Selfish friends will come to visit you and talk about their own personal problems instead of thinking about you. People who are selfish are always selfish. And if you're a selfish person, you cannot be a good leader. Whitney Young once said that the truth is that there is nothing noble in being superior to somebody else. The only real nobility is in being superior to your former self. For those of you who want to be boss all the time, you can only be superior to your normal self, but not to other people. People want to be reminded instead of being commanded. Now the question is, we need our leaders to change, but can they change for us? Jim Hunter, I'm quoting Jim Hunter again, he said that there are many wrong cultural sayings in Africa and many parts of the world. A typical example is that the leopard cannot change its spots. And others say that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. And these are lazy sayings for not taking responsibility for our own lives. And who said you cannot teach a dog new tricks? That is an insult to dogs, let alone human beings. And according to Alan Willis, in her book written about 50 years ago, the book is a very small book. The book is titled How People Change. She talked about 4 different ways people can change. The first one is suffering. The second one is insight. The third one is will. And then the last one is change itself. So let's pick suffering. Suffering is that we need to show our pain to get us moving out of our comfort zone. If Africans have recognized the suffering of our people, the pain, then that pain should push us for change. And Stephen Covey, another leadership professor in the United States, he has said, I think the main source of personal change is pain. Pain. If the pain is enough, we will all demand the change we need. Think about the pain that made people rush to the hospital. Think about the pain that made people run to the dentist. And think about the pain of gaining a lot of weight that made people hit the gym. That is the pain I'm talking about. I want you to picture them and how this pain should force our leaders to change. Insight is our awareness of how damaging our character has been. Most leaders are not aware about how damaging their character has been to the people. It is also about how we realize that freedom is not free. Those of you who think freedom is free, that is not the case. Even the developed world, America, Europe, and many other places that have developed, they still continue to work on their freedom. So freedom is not free. What is the will? The will is our intention plus actions. What are our intentions to match the advanced world? What are the intentions of the African countries to match, let's say, America or Europe? Yes, the conditions are different, but there's nothing that they have done that we cannot do in Africa. Well, I've heard from Cynthia. She said, hey, do I look charming? Well, I don't know about that. I see. Thank you for that. Anyway, when I talk about the world, it's the intentions plus the actions. So what are our leaders' intentions and what are their actions to match Africa with the rest of the world? Because if you fly, Africa has been the center of the world geographically. If you fly from Accra to London, about 7 hours, you are in London, and you are in a totally different world. 10 hours from Accra to New York, and you are in a totally different world. Why? You flip the travel back to Accra or other African places, and conditions are different. What is the problem? We are the same people living on this same planet, having the same thought process. We've been to the same schools that they have. Yes, I'm a professor in America, and I don't know, I've never had more than 2-3 black people in my class. They are all whites. So what I believe is that they are the same people like us. Why can't we match them? Why can't we match the leadership skills of the world? Anyway, when I talk about change, I believe that head knowledge without application is useless. With all the head knowledge that we have, if you cannot apply your hands. So we have a lot of people who memorize theories in Africa in the way we learn. I'll talk about pedagogies and our curriculum. The way we do our things is not going to be able to match with the rest of the world. Think about a lot of innovations that have come from America and ask yourself why. YouTube, Zoom, Google, Facebook, all of these are coming from America. And out of the 20 richest people in the world, about 15 comes from America. Ask yourself why. Because they allow innovation. You are free to do whatever you want to do to reach the end of you. I read a book about Bill Gates. And he said that he was in 3rd grade, class 3, when somebody came to the classroom and was talking about motivation, how to motivate these 3rd grade students. And at the end of his speech, he tapped his shoulders. He was just talking and decided to touch somebody to demonstrate that you can be whoever you want to be, even if you want to be the richest person in the world, with a tap on Bill Gates' shoulders. And that day, on 3rd grade, it dawned on him that he could become the richest person in the world. And indeed, he was, until now that Jeff Bezos have taken over from him, the Amazon guy. So we need to believe in ourselves. Let me take you to the Bible because I believe in the Judeo-Christian principle. I'm a Christian, and I respect my Muslim brothers a lot. I know I have the Quran too. And one thing about me is I read from all angles. I read from all angles. When I talk about religion and leadership next 2 weeks, you will know that I know about every religion in this world. But next week, I'll talk about the media. In the Bible, Jesus was moving in Jerusalem, and then he went to a well called Bethesda. And that well had an infirm man who had stayed there for 38 years. And this can be found in John 5. And Jesus asked this absurd question: do you want to be healed? Now, hold on. This man had been on this well for 38 years. You come in there and then ask him, do you want to be healed? There is a reason why Jesus asked this question. Logically, it's not everybody who is sick who wants to be healed. Get it right. The reason why Jesus asked that infirm man who had been on that well on Bethesda for 38 years, do you want to be healed, is that it is not everybody who is sick who want to be healed. There are many possible payoffs for their illness, and that is why they don't want to be healed. So let me give you an example. Some people feign sickness because they want to receive attention. Some want to be the recipient of kindness from other people. They want to receive gifts from other people. And others want people to feel sorry for them. That is why they feign sickness. So you have many beggars who have feigned to be sick. They are not sick. But they do that to beg for money because they want to receive sympathy from other people. Others do that for attention. And that is why Jesus asked the infirm man, do you want to be healed? So today I ask the same question to African leaders. Do we want to heal Africa? Are there payoffs for our poverty, low literacy, hunger, wars, bad roads, election violence, poor health system, memorized learnings, tabletop agricultural farming, high unemployment, high armed robbery, and no scheduled maintenance? Are there any payoffs? Why we don't want to be healed from this? Do we want to receive the world attention in always borrowing and also always receiving grants, aids, and donations? AK Mensah say, good job, Prof. Keep it up. Thank you. Greetings to you in Germany. Do you always want the rest of the world to feel sorry for us? If that is the case, then we don't want to be healed. And friends, if indeed we want to be healed, then we don't want to be like the infirm man who gave excuses that he had no one to put him in the pool when the water is set up. And while coming, another surfs down before him. All we need to do is to take our bed and walk. So right now, Africans should stand up. Let's take our bed and begin to walk. We have to rise and build, like what the prophet Jeremiah said. Let's rise up and build. So our leaders have been unpredictable in telling the truth. about how we got to our poor situations as developing nations. They are unpredictable in being open. They tend to be secretive and unresponsive to immediate needs of the people. They are unpredictable in seeking immediate gratification, taking bribes and gifts. They are unpredictable in telling the truth. First, they lie, then a bigger lie, then a small theft, then a larger one, then more scandals, and so forth. We have reached a stage where the people have had enough. Time to implement new change of personality, character, habit, and choices. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "We must become the change we wish to see in the world." And Albert Einstein put it in a different way. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Coronavirus and closed borders should teach African leaders a lesson. We cannot always continue to fly to hospitals in the US, UK, Germany, or France in emergencies. We cannot continue to always seek scholarship for our students abroad. We cannot always seek innovation from other citizens. We cannot always depend on others. We cannot always seek foreign consultants to transfer training and have to use our local knowledge. We cannot always import food and clothing from others. We cannot always import cars from other countries and must support local assembly lines. We cannot always depend on credit rating agencies such as Standard & Poor, Moody, and Fitch Group, and must create our own. And finally, we cannot depend on others for foreign aid. So where do we lack as African leaders? Where do we lack? We lack in leading by example and by giving consistent messages. Most of the messages we give out there are very conflicting. We lack in having peace in our land, wars and conflicts in many places. We take less strategies, actions to reduce violence in our places. We lack in identifying with the poor, the downtrodden beggars on the street, and those on the margins. We lack in fighting voter suppression and gerrymandering. We lack in our institutional system because they interact in unexpected ways. We lack in creating a better social security system and taking care of our senior citizens. We lack in protecting women's reproductive rights. We lack in fighting climate change and preserving the environment. We lack in creating good paying jobs and a fairer economy. We lack in political party manifestos that are not costed within the resources of the nation. We lack that more time are spent on trivial issues instead of important ones. Character assassinations, insults, tribal sentiments, not completing previous government projects, and then scheduled maintenance. We lack in civil service, quality of our civil service and their training. We have less empowerment for our people because most people who get into higher position leave nobody in doubt that they are the boss and whatever they say is final. If you want everybody to think like you, then you don't want anybody to think. And then our leaders stand in a way of innovation. That is why most production and most quality innovations are not coming from Africa. Our leaders stand in the way of innovation. Just step out there and let those youth come out with new ideas, because most of the ideas you have are outdated. The youth of today are very smart. Give them the chance to blossom. Give them the chance to come up with new innovation in technology and information. Allow them to come out with new ideas. Leaders in Africa have stood in the way of the youth for far too long. Allow them. We also don't reward hard work, and we don't punish laziness, fraud, and corrupt public officials. We don't match educational curriculum with the right pedagogies and learning outcomes. We still have problem in academic advising. Even courses that students will choose to do in universities is a problem, because academic advising is a problem. I'm an academic advisor in my university for all the master's students in servant leadership. And I know how important quality advising in choosing courses are that help the future of the youth. We are not predictable in the way we use our time. Time consciousness is a problem. We have unclear rules and responsibilities. And then we don't reward hard work. Yes, those of you who are sending messages, I'll be reading them. I'll mention your name and I'll read them, and then we can talk about many issues of common interest and importance. I'm talking about leadership. The predictability of African leaders is their unpredictability. That is my topic. The predictability of African leaders is their unpredictability. There's a guy called John Carver, and he said, no matter how dedicated or intelligent, people cannot be all they can be in a poor system. I want to repeat this quote, very important. According to John Carver, no matter how dedicated or intelligent, people cannot be all they can be in a poor system. That is one of the biggest problems in Africa. We have a lot of dedicated and intelligent people, but because the system is poor, they cannot produce. They are not getting results because the system is poor. I've been to most African countries, and when you go to the court, even the judge will be late. The judge sitting on the case will be late. It hasn't happened like that in any advanced country. Time consciousness. And some of these government buildings are collecting, when it rains. Go to Court B in Koforidua, where I come from. When it rains, the roof leaks. That's the government property. The roof leaks. And the clerk there will have to push his books and files of dockets to a different place so that the rain will not soak it. Friends, leadership is not a joke. And that is why leadership is too important to be left with leaders alone. Again, we are unpredictable in leading by example. African leaders are not predictable in values and policy governance models. Our integrated system of concept, process, and political philosophies keep changing. The way we formulate policies, we don't do it from the inside or outside in. We always do it from inside out, but we're supposed to do it from outside in. Consult people before you make any major policy. The people first. Researching to fix our own problem have also been another area that we have not been consistent. And prudently, we have not used resources provided by countries' diplomats for commercial, cultural, and development projects. In financing discrete projects such as schools, roads, training, health, water, and sanitation, we have not been consistent on that. And how we strengthen development indicators such as human development, agricultural system, rural development, even COVID-19 now, and environmental sustainability, we've not been consistent on that. Standard years of education, curriculum development, syllabi, course competencies, and course designs, we've not been consistent about this. And being proactive instead of reacting to perennial flood and other challenges, we've not been consistent in fixing them. How do we keep our cities clean? How do we understand that power is not taken, but it is given to us, according to Dachler Keltner? And how do we accept that power is the medium through which we just relate to another person? And knowing that we use power to make a difference in the lives of our citizens. To be predictable, our leaders need to plan. So show me the plan. Any serious leader have a plan that he or she shows the people that this is my plan. So in Africa, in our hospitals, in our schools, in our cultural policies, where are the plans? Where are the 5 W's? The who, the what, the where, when, and then the why. The power of why. Why is very important. Why you do things the way you do. Why do you choose policy A instead of B? And these are some of the areas we've not been good in taking care of. Yes, I know a lot of people are commenting, and anybody who comments, I'll mention your name and I'll talk about. So I've had Abner, I've had Cynthia, I've had AK Mensa. Yes, all of you should comment and then you should share ideas. So greetings to all of you in London, in Germany, and other places. Employment and labor forces, we've not planned for that. When this COVID came, even in America, we are almost hitting 14% of unemployment rate. Yes, almost 50 million people don't have jobs in America now. And that has been the highest since the Great Depression. So if America is having about 14% unemployment rate now, think about Africa. Already jobs are a problem. And with this COVID, we're going to have more serious problem of unemployment. So what is the plan? Show the plan that you have for the youth about employment. Our leaders should be able to do that. I saw a study from a guy called Gardner, and this study is very important. He talked about the 5 minds of the future. And he said that these are the 5 minds that is going to compete with the rest of the world in the future. The disciplined mind, the synthesizing mind, the creating mind, the respectful mind, and then the ethical mind. So African leaders should listen to me very well. Let's show the plan for how disciplined we want our citizens to be. Let's show the plan for how synthesizing, critical thinking skills we want our citizens to be. Let's show the plan for how creative we want our citizens to be. And let's show the plan for how respectful we want our citizens to be. Respect is very important in leadership. Any leader who do not respect the subordinates have a problem. Either you are too egoistic or you are a narcissist. A leader should show respect to the citizens because they employ you. And then the ethical mind, doing the right thing when nobody's watching you. So these are the minds of the future that we should all concentrate on and show the plan. We should not fail to anticipate or look around the corner, according to a study by Diamond in 2005. What have we done wrong or right? And what are the intentions? In all our intentions, we should put the people first. We should also not fail to perceive our own problems or the elephant in the room. We have the elephant in the room, open defecation, where people defecate everywhere, where people pee by the roadside everywhere. Friends, I know a lot of ministers, a lot of presidents, and a lot of members of parliament who travel to America and Europe and the rest of the advanced countries. Don't you see that every 10 miles, there is a bathroom, a washroom, a stop room, where they have built toilets and bathrooms, about 10, 15 of them, in a building that you can go and then ease yourself. You can go to visit the restroom, and whatever you want to do, you can do there. There's even a cash bar there that you can buy any couple of things, snacks and a lot of things. And people clean these morning and evenings. Because of that, you cannot pee outside because the governments have provided resources so that you can pee or poop outside in these provided facilities. I'm talking about mobile toilets, portable restrooms. Can't we provide these for our citizens? How much does it cost? So if we want our citizens to be disciplined, which is one of the minds we need for the future, then provide the tools so that they would not have the opportunity to be indisciplined. Yes, the elephant in the room, open defecation, peeing outside. It is not appropriate in this 21st century to do that. So let's fix that by making the provision for them. Another study by Diamond in 2005 pointed that the success or failure of a society is to know which core values to hold on to and which ones to disregard or replace with new values when time changes. I want to pause to talk about this study a little bit. According to Diamond's study, the success or failure of a society is to know which core values to hold on to and which core values to replace with new ones when time changes. So which core values do we as Africans want to hold on to? That is question number 1. Is it time consciousness? Is it truthfulness? Is it honesty? It is integrity? Is it confidence? Is it sense of humor, commitment, positive attitude, or creativity? Let's look for the values we want our citizens to hold on to. And then which ones do you want to throw away? Is it corruption, showboating, gossips, insults, indiscipline, nudity? Look at the naked pictures we have on Facebook and other places, Instagram. Is that the values we want to portray? What about those who are cursing with X and schnapps? Can we throw that one away? Can we make laws to stop that archaic behavior? What about goofing on social media? Friends, America and the British keep working 24 hours every day. It's not about goofing around. They work. In Africa, you live to work. You live to work. It means you live first, work is second. Well, in America and Europe, you work to live. Without work, you cannot live. You need to work. So those of you who are goofing, who want to play around, who want to, music, entertainment, that is fine. But the world is revolving on knowledge and wisdom. We need to sit down and learn. I'm not saying this because I'm a professor. No. But all things that you see is the ideation, the ideas. If people will go to space, NASA is the ideas first. Knowledge is moving the world. So let's look for knowledge. And which one do we want to replace when time changes? Is it life presidents? Too many ministers in our government? How to enforce our laws? Hailing our leaders too much? Do we want to change it? Or giving harsh punishment to corrupt public officials? So this is the turning point that I want to talk about. Justice says, Dr. Watson, good morning, it should be afternoon, because Justice, I know you are in New York, so good afternoon to you in New York. You lead me by 1 hour. The turning point is that we need emotional intelligence for African leaders, according to Dan Goleman. And emotional intelligence is how you manage your own feelings and then the feelings of others as a leader. We need to improve our interpersonal skills, our motivation, social skills, empathy, and self-awareness. We have to hold leadership to a higher standard than other people. If you want to be a leader, we need to hold you to a higher standard than the rest of the people, because you want to lead us. We need to set a standard for values in our societies. Values, my friends, are very important. Talk about America, talk about Europe, London, France, Germany. It's the values that is creating the difference. How they are conscious of time, how they dedicated themselves to work, how humble their leaders are. These are the values that are propelling them higher. We have to learn from them. American author Ben Blanchard once said, feedback is the breakfast for champions. We need feedback from our citizens. Those in our government who don't want anybody to criticize us, they are killing us. One thing that I've learned in life is that those who criticize you want to make you better. There's a culture in America that when we teach, our students do evaluation twice a semester. So the semester is about 4 months. And the midterm, students are going to evaluate their professor and say, well, we don't like him or we don't like her. I don't like A, B, or C. It helps you to be better because students are your clients. So we are used to criticism. Professors in America are used to criticism. Your students are going to evaluate you. And remember, you are teaching to the needs of different students from different backgrounds. But each of them are going to evaluate you. And you're going to sit with your dean and talk about it. The student said A, B, C. What are your plans to change this so that your interaction and engagement with them will be better? So criticism is not a bad thing. It helps you to be a better person. Good governance is also where we have had a problem and we need to turn the point. Now in governance, I define it as the coming together of a group of elected or appointed individuals to act as one for the purpose of guiding the country which they hold in trusteeship towards the accomplishment of its ends while establishing appropriate boundaries for accountability. So in governance, I'm looking for trusteeship, that word. You are holding the position in trust. One day you'll be out of office. That position is not yours. You've not been the first president of your country and you'll not be the last. You are not the first minister of your country and you'll not be the last. You are not the first member of parliament of your country or your constituency and you'll not be the last. Other people will come. So you are holding the position in trust. And as a steward, you give accountability of whatever you did with your time with the people. So accountability is also the piece that I'm looking for. Governance is not about budget lines or personal practices or big rallies or intricacies of programs. Governance is about values, strategic leadership, vision, and reaching the ends. I repeat again, governance is about values, strategic leadership, vision, and reaching the ends. The ends of providing dignified life, of good food, good water, good roads, affordable housing, quality health system, quality customer services, quality air, safety, security, prosperity for the citizens. This is what governance is about. And the secret of governance lies in policy making that meet the immediate needs of the citizens. It is not about the leader, it is about we, the people. It's not about who has been in the political party for long, because politics is about the moment. So those of you who think that, well, I've been in this political party for long, so I should be in this position. No, politics is about the moment. Other than that, somebody like Trump, who has never done politics before, will not be a president of America. It's about the moment. It's not about who has been in the political party for a long time. It's not about politicians controlling more or less, but allocating the taxpayers' money in projects that benefit the people, not the politicians. So the objectives are very clear. We should create an environment that increases the likelihood of the right people doing the right things in the right way at the right time for the right reasons, so that the right results will be achieved for the country. This calls for leadership with a different type of courage to anticipate a growing problem and solve it in a very responsive way. Such leaders have great courage and expose themselves to criticism and ridicule, according to a study by Diamond in 2005. Leaders who will serve first and be stewards of their relationship with God, their relationship with the children themselves, as the Creator altered us to be. So 4 things that I want us to build leaders want to build relationship with. Your relationship with God is very important as a leader. Your relationship with yourself, as child of the Creator is also very important. Your relationship with your neighbors, and then your relationship with God's creation. These are the 4 areas that we need to build relationship on. We have to plan for post-COVID-19. Yes, COVID-19 has come to stay, but we need to plan for it. And let me tell you what China is doing now. They are doing what they call institutional reforms in training, pharmaceutical research, creating values, health, and then how they can take care of the elderly. We have to avoid freebies. You know, most African leaders have this habit of giving things free, that if we give people free things, then they will vote for us. Use the money to build factories. Use the money to build manufacturing that people can work with. Use the money to recycle. Use the money to do commercial farming. Use the money to provide silos for storage. Use the money to provide car assembly lines, and use the money to process our golds and our diamonds so that we can add value to them. Yeah, some individuals are calling me, but I'm on live now and I will not be able to take calls. I am still looking at those who are commenting and those who are sharing. Please do so, and I'll be more than willing to mention your name and then talk about the things that you're talking about. I want to end this way. Yes, I want to end this way because I don't want to spend more than 1 hour, 20 minutes in any of my videos. I don't want to take much of your time because I know you have a lot of things to do, and sitting down to listen to leadership talks shouldn't take much of your time. We're just sharing ideas. So I want to conclude this way by picking the brain of John McCain, who is a former senator of Arizona and former presidential candidate of America. I followed him a lot. For a long time, he was a senator, and he had mastered in values. So this is the list of what John McCain came out and why they have been consistent as models. And that is why African leaders must learn from them. The first one is that they have to be honest, like Thomas More. African leaders have to be honest like Thomas More. Thomas More, he surrendered everything for the truth as he saw it, and ashamed the king with the courage of his conscience. African leaders have to be respectful like Gandhi. Gandhi, this is what he did. He could not harm a soul, but his heart would not yield to power and would not triumph over the empire that opposed him. African leaders should be authentic like Joan of Arc. At the command of voices that she only could hear, she rode to battle and saved her country. African leaders should be loyal like Sir Ernest Shackleton. He was a driven man and a tough, demanding boss, and would triumph over impossible odds to keep faith with the men who trusted him. African leaders should show dignity like Viktor Frankl. When he had lost everything he loved, suffered the worst of human cruelty, and stood on the threshold of death, he gave his life purpose. African leaders should be idealistic like the Sojourner Truth, the slave who helped teach America the meaning of freedom. African leaders should be righteous like Romeo de la Rey. When the rest of the world looked away, he stayed behind in a man-made evil for the sake of duty and justice. African leaders should be citizens like Pat Tillman. He gave away the fortune and fame of a celebrity to serve his country in this time of need and leave us with a lesson of real heroism. African leaders should be diligent like Winston Churchill. He persevered through every trial and misfortune to alert his countrymen to the opposing danger and to save them when they ignored the warning. African leaders should be responsible like Lord Nelson and his lieutenants, the bold and brave admiral who taught men how to fight and made the British Navy the most powerful in the world in their time. African leaders should be courageous like Edith Cavell, the dedicated nurse and lonely woman who gave her life to save others. African leaders should have self-control like George Washington, the self-made man who learned to govern himself before he governed a great country that would claim him as our father. African leaders should be confident like Elizabeth I. Raised in fear and uncertainty, but with the heart of a king, she became the greatest ruler of her time. African leaders should be hopeful like John Winthrop. He left the security of his native country to face the dangers of an unknown world and shaped the character of a new civilization. African leaders should be compassionate like Mazimalim Kobe, a Polish priest who knew his mission was to give his life so that another might live and who thanked God for the privilege. African leaders should be tolerant like the four chaplains, four Navy chaplains of different faiths and denominations who treated one another as brothers and gave the war-torn world an example of human solidarity. African leaders should forgive like Nelson Mandela, the prisoner who forgave his jailer and helped South Africans to forgive one another. African leaders should be like this lady called Ursula McCarthy. She washed laundry for a living and had few possessions, but by the end of her life, she was the richest woman in Mississippi. And this is what Ursula McCarthy said, that respect have greater value than wealth and fame. I like this woman a lot. She worked as a cleaner, saved all the money and gave all the money to charity. But when she died, she was the richest person in Mississippi. And her words were simple: self-respect has greater value than wealth and fame. African leaders should be fair, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. From a jail cell, he wrote the I Have a Dream letter, which is one of the most celebrated documents in American history, and summoned his country to the cause of justice. African leaders should show gratitude like Tecumseh, the great Indian leader who lost a war but taught his enemies how to live. African leaders should have a sense of humor like Mark Twain. He became the most famous person in the world, and he helped Americans to live up to their promise by making them laugh at themselves. African leaders should be courteous like Aung San Suu Kyi. She is from Burma, and she went home to free her people and from opposed tyrants. African leaders should be discerning like Leonardo da Vinci. He was a scientist who painted masterpieces as part of his grand ambition to see all that was visible in nature. African leaders should show excellence like Wilma Rudolph. She survived poverty, racism, and polio to become the first fastest woman on earth in track and field sports at a time in the 1960s. African leaders should be selfless and content like Mother Teresa. She chose to live amid squalor and sickness and depression, endured hardship and endless toil, and might have been the happiest person on earth doing that. And finally, African leaders should be consistent like Abraham Lincoln. Born in poverty and obscurity, his heart burdened with grief, but by criticism and misfortune, yet he would not yield until he had saved the country he loved. I implore African leaders that don't yield until you save the country you love that made you the president. God bless you all for those who contributed. This concludes my talk about African leaders, how they can be consistent and help Africa. Thank you for listening, and I want you to share with the rest of the world. Next week, I will talk about the African media, and then a week after that, I will talk about religion and leadership in Africa. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Eldridge.